Homeschooling families and Christian schools will be forbidden from teaching the biblical truth that homosexual behavior is sin. I'm Matt Barber, Vice President of Liberty Counsel Action, and joining me in studio is Deryl Edwards, President of Liberty Counsel Action. Alberta, Canada, Deryl, homeschooling families will soon be forbidden from teaching that homosexual sex is sinful as part of their schooling program, according to the government of Alberta, Canada, and under the province's Education Act, homeschoolers and religious schools will be banned from, quote, disrespecting people's differences. And whatever the nature of schooling, homeschool, private school, Catholic school, we do not tolerate disrespect for differences, said Donna McConnell Lukazuk, Assistant Director of Communications for the government there. You can affirm the family's ideology in your family life. You just can't do it as part of your educational study and instruction. Interesting.
How does that work in a homeschool situation? We've talked about that before we went on the air. In a homeschool family, how are you affirming, your own beliefs about homosexuality in a family life situation, and then when it's time for class time, you change it to something else? Or is class time this rigid start and stop time? I don't think, as we said, they didn't seem to have thought that through.
Yeah, well, liberals don't normally think things through. It's their way or the highway. And this is just another example of the fact that from the progressive mindset, intolerance will not be tolerated. And by intolerance, they mean their wholesale embrace of whatever agenda they may be pushing, whatever the flavor of the day is. In this case here, we've known for a long time that the radical left has pushed a postmodern, moral relativist view of human sexuality, that any teaching of the biblical truth about human sexuality, that it's only appropriate within the bonds of marriage between a man and a woman. That is, every major world religion and thousands of years of human history have held that as the gold standard, and everything else is immoral, particularly, in this case, homosexual sex. Well, now in Alberta, Canada, which we're usually only 4 or 5 years behind them with this kind of stuff, they've said that it is illegal to teach what the Bible says about human sexuality, and not just in public schools, homeschools or Christian schools. And, Hy Feldblum, who was President Obama's recess appointment to the EEOC, former Georgetown law professor, radical lesbian activist, and advocate of polyamorous marriage, communal marriage, essentially. She has said that this is a zero-sum game, this notion of this battle, this cultural war, this battle between the idea of newfangled gay rights versus the right to freedom of religious expression and free speech, that so-called gay rights trumps all. Well, here in Alberta, Canada, we see that is in fact the case. People will be prohibited under penalty of law from teaching what the Bible says about homosexual sin. It's chilling. Yeah,
you brought the word up before about toleration, and the left has preached toleration for years, especially the gay rights community. That's all they hear. You need to be more tolerant. And the first, 4 words out of here is, we do not tolerate. Yeah. And I thought, what a poor choice of words for people who love to preach toleration all this time.
We do not tolerate disrespect for differences. The ironies are palpable there. Mm-hmm. We do not tolerate disrespect for differences. Here they are disrespecting the view of human sexuality that again, every major world religion has held, that is thousands of years of history, uncompromising human biology. You bring in the medical statistics into the equation. The homosexual lifestyle is demonstrably and arguably a hazardous, high-risk lifestyle. It's a dangerous lifestyle. And that's not just me saying that. That's the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. Yet to dissuade, to try and to do it from a moral standpoint, people from embracing this lifestyle and engaging in these destructive behaviors in Alberta, Canada, that's illegal. Yet they will not tolerate differences. They don't tolerate the differences of those who embrace the biblical model of human sexuality. and will use the iron hammer of the law and the government, the full force of government, to come down on their heads, not just in a public school, in a homeschool setting within people's very own homes, the walls, their abode, to come in. That is a gross encroachment on their rights behind closed doors within their own home setting. That is chilling, and we see the radical homosexual activist lobby and like-minded progressives, homosexualist progressives, pushing this agenda, getting more and more emboldened to the detriment of those who embrace true biblical Christianity.
And as we said before, about them not thinking this through, the spokesperson for the government added that Christian homeschooling families can teach biblical lessons on homosexuality in their homes, quote, as long as it's not part of their academic program of studies and instructional materials. What they do about their ideology elsewhere, that's their family business. I don't understand how – isn't that a slight bit confusing to a child? When it's class time and we teach them gay is okay, homosexuality is fine, but we close the books and now we're going to have Sunday school time and we're going to teach you the complete opposite.
The exact opposite.
It doesn't make any sense. So, actually, I think the goal is, the unstated goal here is, no, you really should never teach them the biblical model, because we shouldn't believe that, because you should respect diversity and tolerance, even though we won't tolerate you saying this.
Yeah, of course that's the goal. And the left uses the incrementalist approach to do
Absolutely.
this. We keep bringing this back up, but President Obama's ObamaCare, pro-abortion, abortifacient, birth control, and sterilization mandate that says Catholic and Christian organizations must pay for, and they do have to, through a shell game, they provide insurance policies that provide free of charge. They're, of course, paying for those insurance policies that provide free of charge various forms of abortion, birth control. And, well, this is the incrementalist approach that President Obama is using. We've talked about before. The Obamacare says the Secretary of Health and Human Services, in this case Kathleen Sebelius, a radical pro-abort, shall be allowed to arbitrarily determine this, and this. That's how Obamacare was written, so that there are no boundaries for forcing Christian and faith-based organizations to pay for abortions, full-blown abortions eventually. We know that that's what we're seeing here. Well, the incrementalist approach we see government officials using in Alberta, Canada, is to say, well, they know that there would be a huge outcry if they said simply, parents, you cannot teach your children what the Bible says about human sexuality, even in a private setting, So they say just in a homeschool setting, but whatever you teach in your own family time is fine. I mean, this again is the left's the ability, the big government idea that the left can come in and control every little aspect of people's lives, up to and including what they teach their kids about sexual morality in their own home. It's frightening.
It also kind of shows the mentality of the left in terms of education, that they don't really actually know what it's about, and it shows the failure of the bureaucratic system in the fact that the education to them can be fixed between certain specific times. You turn on and you turn off. Yeah. Homeschooling families have known for years that it's a continual process. Right. It goes throughout the day. That's why they're baffled by this government edict. They don't understand how you turn it on and turn it off. In fact, one person who represents the Alberta Home Education Association, Patty Marler, said, quote, "We educate our children all the time, and that's just the way we live. It's a lifestyle. Making that distinction between the times we're homeschooling and when we're just living is hard to do."
Yeah. Well, folks, the education or the evidence continues to mount. The left will not be satisfied until we are all forced to cast aside our sincerely held religious beliefs and embrace a postmodern view of human sexuality and adopt a secular socialist worldview in our system of education and elsewhere. As Hy Feldblum has said, it is a zero-sum game. Somebody has to win. Somebody has to lose. Well, at Liberty Counsel, we're not going to give up. We're not going to just roll over and let these radical progressives ram down the throats of Americans their view on human sexuality. We're going to stand firm in defense of the natural family and natural marriage. And we encourage you to join Liberty Counsel and help us to do so. Go to lc.org or give us a call at 1-800-671-1776. Become part of Liberty Counsel's ministry today.